Anyone who tells you not to learn scales on the guitar is full of shit. The fact is, even if you're only playing one note anywhere on the guitar neck, then you're playing part of a scale. Now on the other hand, most of those teachers on YouTube who tell you to learn scales will also lead you up the wrong ladder, especially if you play a 6-string guitar. Now I'll explain why in a minute, but first, let me show you what I consider to be the missing link that unlocks the guitar neck forever. You see, most guitar teachers teach theory. They might tell you need to learn things like the cage system or the circle of fifths or scales and modes and all kinds of confusing mumbo jumbo. But at the end of the day, what no one tells you is that when you take all that theory out there and you put it all together, it all boils down to just one simple thing. One special pattern that unlocks the guitar neck and reveals the why behind what you're doing and opens up a whole new world just waiting to be explored. Now, here's the thing. The reason why most guitar players have never heard of this is because this special pattern has 7 strings, not 6 strings like standard guitars. And the reason why so many 6-string guitar players have such a hard time putting it all together, where they don't sound smooth and musical and they can't confidently explore the neck without hesitation, is because they're literally missing the one piece of the puzzle that connects all the dots, and that's the invisible missing string. In fact, many guitar players actually laugh out loud when they see how easy this is. And don't worry, I'm not saying you need to get a guitar with more than 6 strings, by the way. This works for any guitar, and it couldn't be easier to remember. In fact, if you would have just learned this one pattern from the beginning, you'd be having so much fun moving up and down the fretboard you'd probably never want to put the guitar down. And all your friends and family would probably think you're a genius. In fact, when Joe Griffin discovered it, he said, "This is the magic key I've been looking for." Glenn Gay said, "I've been playing for over 40 years and never have I learned something so good so fast." And Renee Sayan said, "I've been wanting to play that way for so long, I had tears coming out of my eyes." Now the best part is, you don't have to have boatloads of natural talent. It doesn't matter what size or shape your fingers are. It doesn't matter what your age is or even when you started playing. This pattern lets you skip right over all that confusing and overwhelming theory so many guitar players struggle with and lets you pick up the guitar with confidence, hit those magic notes anywhere on the guitar neck, and sound great in any situation. I searched for weeks and I couldn't find anyone talking about this anywhere. So that's why I created the free lesson on the next page that shows you how it all works. All you have to do is click the link on this video right now and go watch it on the next page. You don't even need to put in your email or anything like that. I just want to help my fellow guitar players enjoy the best instrument in the world so they can stop wasting time and finally play guitar the way they always wanted. Also, when you watch the lesson on the next page, you'll discover how this genius pattern actually comes from a piano and why it's one of the most obvious things any beginning piano player learns. You'll see how you can play across the neck without having to think about it when you use the 7 feelings that repeat across the fretboard. And you'll finally know the why behind how the pros make guitar look so easy. All you have to do is click the link on this video right now, then watch the full lesson on the next page. By the way, since inflation is getting out of control, I may have to take this video down at any time, so don't say I didn't warn you. Frankly, I wouldn't even chance it. Just click the link on this video right now, watch the full lesson on the next page, and see for yourself how this one thing will change your guitar playing overnight.
Somebody help! My t-shirt! It sucks!
Put it back on and get on the table.
What?
Oh, dear God. Sloppy collar, rough fabric, boxy fit. We may need to operate.
Is it terminal?
Don't worry, sir. It's not you. It's your shirt.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
Clear!
Whoa! How do I get all of my t-shirts to look like this?
I'd recommend a prescription for True Classic tees. True Classic makes shirts you'll actually want to wear. They're designed to make your chest and arms pop with a little give in the torso to keep all that manhood cozy. I have a degree in this.
Sounds like that'll send my insurance through the roof.
Actually, it won't. And if you click below right now, you can get 20% off your first order. See, most consumer t-shirt brands phone it in when it comes to design. Just look. a body bag with sleeves. Meanwhile, other men's brands overcharge to maximize profits. True Classic gives you the best of both worlds. They're designed for men's bodies to make you look good and feel great. And they're reasonably priced. Finally, you can own a shirt that's made for you, not a mannequin.
Am I here for a checkup?
No, you're here to get checked out.
But I have a cyst, I should probably... Oh my...
And if you're in the mood to improve your physical health, 9 out of 10 doctors recommend True Classic Activewear. Same fit formula, but with ultra lightweight UPF material that wicks away sun, sweat, and stink. That's why nearly 2 million guys have pulled the plug on their old shirts. And with over 50,000 5-star reviews, it's no wonder True Classic has so many satisfied patients.
Ice pack?
I'm okay, thank you.
How about these?
What?
The True Classic treatment plan goes far beyond just shirts. They've applied their perfect fit and comfort to activewear, loungewear, underwear, outerwear, formal wear, and sockwear.
Sockwear?
Are there any side effects?
Sometimes hyperconfidence, extreme charisma, bloated ego, and your father's blessing.
Oh, that might be nice.
Hit the link below to receive 20% off your first order. What are you waiting for? Great. Stop. They have to click the links. Right here. Yeah, you could click it anytime. Preferably soon. My arm is a little tired. You still haven't clicked? Okay, well, do this all.
Sorry. Someone clicked the link before you, so. Sorry. It's okay.
Well, okay. Well, we're sold out, so you can go home.
Oh. Thanks.
Take care.
25th, the famous Battle of Leyte Gulf would take place, and Air Group 15 would play a starring role. One of their heroic moments would actually be when fighters of the USS Essex, led by famed ace David McCampbell, intercepted a massive wave of Japanese aircraft, preventing a devastating attack on the American fleet. But the TBF Avengers would also play a role, attacking a large number of Japanese battleships, cruisers, and destroyers with both torpedoes and bombs. In these intense 2 days of fighting, Commander Lambert, who oversaw the torpedo bombers of Air Group 15, described the action as follows. Coming in through the most intense and accurate AA yet experienced, the squadron made 3 hits on one battleship, 2 hits on another battleship, and 2 hits each on 2 different heavy cruisers. In this intense fighting action, 2 of the 16 TBF Avengers of Lois Edwards' group would be lost. In addition, sometime during a mission on October 24th, Lois himself would be injured in combat. This would occur when his aircraft was hit by an anti-aircraft round, and shrapnel would enter his right foot. Like the hero he was, however, Lois simply wrapped it up and stayed on to fight the next day. Following the American victory at Leyte Gulf, the USS Essex would turn away from the front of the fighting and head to a U.S. island base with a large hospital ship for 4 days of rest and replenishment. Following this, they were to head back to the front for 2 more weeks of fighting before Air Group 15 was scheduled to be rotated out and sent back home. Here we can see a letter from Lois written to his father on October 31st. Likely written from a recovery bed while he was recovering from his shrapnel wound. We can see that Lois is discussing casual things like a victory garden with his father, and that he doesn't think that it's a good idea because of the current heat in Oklahoma. Later on, Lois writes that the U.S. Navy is kicking the hell out of the great Imperial Japanese Navy, and that General MacArthur is making slow but sure headway in the Philippines. He finishes this letter home by saying that he was so tired that he felt that he could sleep for 24 hours straight, and that he would write home again in a few days. With his foot injury, Lois Edwards could have stayed on board the hospital ship for the following 2 weeks of recovery, while his group went out on their final mission. He would have then been rotated back to the United States along with the rest of the unit. There would have been no shame in this, as he had a serious shrapnel injury and was receiving medical treatment. But again, Lois Edwards refused to let his fellow airmen go to battle without him. He chose to go with his group back for their final mission, an honorable and respectable decision that would seal his fate. On November 5th of 1944, 4 strikes would be made from the USS Essex, all while Japanese aircraft were attacking the fleet sporadically throughout the day. Captain Cosgrove, Digby, and Lois would be assigned to attack Japanese cruisers in an early morning raid on Manila Bay. As they prepared to take off, Lois Edwards climbed into his turret for the final time.
Lightsabers are finally a reality, and you can own one. This new military flashlight is basically a lightsaber that fits in your pocket. But be warned, this $600 flashlight is not a toy. It's so powerful that it can melt through anything. It can even start a fire, making it the perfect survival tool. The flashlight projects an incredibly powerful beam of light reaching up to 2 miles. It was designed specifically for American Special Forces to view enemy positions from miles away, and for close combat missions in enemy territory at night. The flashlight features state-of-the-art military-grade CREE's LED technology, meaning it's at least 20 times more powerful than commercially available flashlights, which gives its awesome fire-starting capabilities. It literally burns through any material in seconds. It was designed for special forces and couldn't be sold to civilians. That is until a few weeks ago, when an ex-Special Forces operator redesigned the flashlight for civilian use, while retaining all its functions for survival or self-defense. He used to love the flashlights when he was serving his country. He memorized the design and technology so he could build one at home. When he did, he was quickly visited by lawyers, telling him that he couldn't copy the design exactly or he would get in trouble. He saw this as an opportunity to improve upon it, and change things that bothered him when he was on missions using it. He adapted it for better survival and home use. It still has all the same functions, strength, and technology as the military version, but now it's perfectly legal to own. He's the only one manufacturing it, having explicit permission to make and sell these in the US. He chose to call his product Elite Tac. Elite Tac is the most powerful flashlight ever made. Check out the difference yourself. It even beats a car's headlights with ease. Elite Tac is made from the same purified aluminum and titanium they use on the latest 5th generation fighter aircraft to withstand enormous pressure and heat, meaning that the Elite Tac is indestructible. It's completely waterproof and strong enough to withstand both freezing temperatures, boiling water, as well as flaming hot fire. You can even run it over and it will keep working. This flashlight is the perfect survival tool. Its light beam is even powerful enough to cook food like an egg. The Elite Tac even has a strobe and SOS function, perfect for emergency situations where visibility is key to survival. If you are interested in the Elite Tac, there's something you should know. While completely legal, this flashlight is not a toy. As it's so extremely powerful, the US Product Safety Commission is trying to classify it as military-grade defense equipment. While it will remain perfectly legal to own one, it probably won't be long before it's taken off the online market. That's also the reason why you can't buy it from web stores like Amazon or eBay. In fact, if you really want one, you can only order it from the official website. And today only, you can get yours with a 50% discount. Click the link in this video for more information about Elite Tac.
If you're a Washington State homeowner, 2022 is the best time to install solar panels. Just weeks ago, the federal government passed an extension to the solar investment credit, which pays homeowners an average of $9,880 to install solar panels. See how much you can be paid by seeing if your home is solar compatible below. The solar investment credit is the reason so many of your neighbors have gone solar, and now more homeowners are getting paid even more. Not all homes qualify, so click on the link below and submit your information for a free solar diagnostic. This diagnostic will verify if your home is eligible, because the government and your utility company both offer different green energy.
It would take the group about 2 hours to reach their target area. Once they arrived, Captain Cosgrove made an attacking run and released their payload on the cruiser as Japanese anti-aircraft lit up the sky. For this mission, the defending fire was noticeably thick and well aimed from the Japanese ships. As they dropped their ordnance on the cruiser below, 2 large anti-aircraft shells made direct hits on their aircraft, exploding right inside of the gunner's turret where Lois Dean was sitting. In these 2 hits, Lois was likely killed instantly. Shortly after feeling the impact, radio man Digby Denzik, who was at the bottom turret, went up to his seat to check on Lois and then saw the grim scene when he looked inside his turret. He then radioed to Captain Cosgrove in the cockpit.
Captain, Dean is hit bad.
Captain Cosgrove obviously wanted to check on Dean himself, but his aircraft was hit badly and it required everything he had to keep his plane in the air. Checking on Lois would have to wait until they were back on board the Essex. For 2 hours, Denzik sat quietly in his seat next to Dean, while Captain Cosgrove nursed their TBF Avenger back to the carrier. On approach, they radioed that they had an injured crew member on board, so that they could prepare the medical crews to give him attention. Digby Denzik, in the radio man's position, was likely the only one that knew how bad it truly was. As Cosgrove landed the Avenger, medics and rescue crews rushed out to try and help their brother. Unfortunately, upon seeing the situation in the gunner's seat, they quickly realized that Lois Dean was dead. And tragically, the explosions from the shells inside of the gunner's turret had completely mangled both Lois Dean and the turret itself. Metal from all around the turret was bent out of place, and the remains of Lois Dean's body was right in the middle of it. To make the situation even worse, a Japanese kamikaze flight had recently been reported as en route to their position, and may be there within an hour. This left the commanders of the USS Essex in a terrible position in regards to how to take care of their deceased crew member. They had to soon clear the flight deck and prepare for the possible incoming raid, but there was no way to remove Lois from the gunner's position. In a tragic decision attempting to honor their brother in the best way possible, it was decided that Lois Edward Dean would have to be buried at sea, inside of his aircraft.
There are stories of crew members refusing to, crew members not wanting to leave their killed comrades and the bombers and bail out. It's got to be a difficult thing to do. I don't know if I would be able to do that.
Island. And a week after that, Enterprise strikes at Marcus Island, just 1,000 miles from Tokyo. Then in April, Enterprise escorts USS Hornet in the Doolittle raid against mainland Japan. B-25 bombers launch from Hornet and drop bombs on Tokyo and several other cities.
The Japanese realize the home islands are vulnerable, U.S. Navy aircraft carriers are still out there and are still dangerous. So what we need to do is get rid of their aircraft carriers and then set up one more outpost further out into the Eastern Pacific.
One carrier, Lexington, has already been sunk a month ago. And now, Admiral Yamamoto plans to lure the rest of them into a trap. He'll target Midway Island.
Midway is close enough to Hawaii that it will be seen as a threat to the security of Oahu and Pearl Harbor, and yet it's far enough away that American air power in the Hawaiian Islands can't really make its presence felt during the forthcoming battle.
The American fleet has also lost one of its best leaders. Vice Admiral Bull Halsey has kept the Navy afloat for 6 months on nothing but sheer guts. Now he is out of action, felled by a rare variant of psoriasis, so severe he is hospitalized, his very life threatened. Admiral Chester Nimitz is still in command of the Pacific Fleet. Nimitz, a Texas native and a 41-year veteran of the Navy, is a shrewd and efficient commander. And though Nimitz is outnumbered and outgunned, he has an ace up his sleeve: the Japanese Code. The U.S. Navy has worked round the clock to crack the Imperial Navy's code. They determined that the Japanese plan an attack on a target called AF. But what is AF? Washington bureaucrats insist AF is Alaska's Aleutian Islands, the beginning of an assault on the U.S. mainland. But Admiral Nimitz believes the Japanese want the Pacific, not Alaska. The codebreakers come up with a ruse. They broadcast a radio alert saying that Midway has a drastic water shortage. Within 24 hours, the codebreakers have their answer. The Japanese Navy sends a coded message reporting a water emergency on target AF. Nimitz is right. AF is Midway Island. Admiral Nimitz has evened up the odds. The Japanese Navy is arriving in full force. But the Americans will be waiting. For the U.S., it is a true 360-degree battle. Target, Midway Island. Objective, protect the American base and inflict as much damage as possible on the superior Japanese fleet. Strategy, ambush with air, sea, and sub attacks. Nimitz knows that the Japanese will approach Midway from the northwest. So he sends his aircraft carriers, Enterprise, Hornet, and Yorktown, to a staging point 200 miles northeast of the island. When the Japanese carriers come within range, American bombers will attack. And all signs point to the 4th of June as the day the enemy ships will reach the battle zone. Dawn, June 4th, 1942. It's clear and quiet as USS Enterprise floats near the exact center of the Pacific. Scout planes search for the enemy carriers, but they are too late. Japanese bombers, Kates and Vals, get the first hit at Midway. A force of 109 Japanese aircraft appear over the atoll. They tear into the American base, exploding hangars and cratering runways. It is like Pearl Harbor all over again. Back with Enterprise and her task force, sailors prepare for action, but haven't gotten word of the Midway attacks. Over on USS Yorktown, 21-year-old Oklahoma native Lloyd Childers, a radio man gunner, dressed alongside his brother Wayne. Childers had an odd sense that his chances of surviving his mission today were slim.
I put my wallet in my pocket, started to put my wristwatch on, and my brother was standing there. We were sharing a locker. I took my wallet out of my pocket, put the wristwatch, put it in the locker, and I said, Wayne, if I don't come back, these are yours. He got a funny look on his face, but didn't say a word.
The morning's ominous tone gets worse when they reach the mess hall. It's a hearty meal of steak and eggs, a sign to the airmen that real trouble is ahead. Dive bomber pilot Dusty Cleese is a 26-year-old Naval Academy graduate from Coffeyville, Kansas.
Now, we always knew that anytime we ever had steak and eggs, that was going to be a busy day.
Somebody behind me says, last meal for the condemned men.
7 a.m. Reports of the attack on Midway reach the Enterprise. The flyers scramble to prepare for their launch. In Enterprise's ready room, pilots shake hands with one another, many for the last time. The ideal launch order is for the Wildcat fighters to climb into the sky first to protect the planes that follow. Then the torpedo bombers launch, followed by the dive bombers. The dive bombers are faster than the torpedo planes and can catch up. But it doesn't come off like clockwork this morning. Problems with plane jockeying on the flight deck cause delays. Some squadrons don't properly coordinate and become scattered.
The problem from the American standpoint is that at this point in the war, we really don't understand how to use our carriers in company with each other. So when the American carriers finally begin launching their aircraft, they put them up in such a way that you have squadron-sized groups going off and doing their own individual searches for the Japanese rather than putting together a coordinated strike with torpedo bombers, dive bombers, and fighter escorts.
SBD scout bomber pilot Dusty Cleese says goodbye to his friend Tom Eversole. Eversole pilots one of the slow, vulnerable torpedo bombers. His odds of returning from the battle are low.
He knew that he was on a suicidal thing, you know.
The torpedo bomber aircraft the men are flying, the TBD Devastator, is not a good airplane for the job.
In the torpedo plane department, the Americans have real deficiencies. It's underpowered, it's slow, it has to launch its torpedoes at very low altitude and very low speed.
Over on Yorktown, radio man gunner Lloyd Childers climbs into the back of his torpedo bomber, with his pilot, Harry Coral, up front.
When we were strapped in and everything ready to go, I picked up the mic and I told Mr. Coral, today's my 21st birthday. Theoretically, today I'm a man, so let's celebrate.
Moments later, Coral and Childers' TBD Devastator, lugging a 2,000-pound torpedo, roars down the flight deck and fights its way into the air. They'll have to fly nearly 2 hours to reach the Japanese ships. While the torpedo planes lumber into the sky, American forces have already begun the assault on the Japanese. 7:10 a.m. The first wave of the American attack begins. Bombers have launched from Midway Island to attack the Japanese carriers. The enemy warships open up with anti-aircraft fire. A typical Japanese aircraft carrier is bristling with weaponry. The Kaga, an important carrier in this fight, wields 5 8-inch guns that can reach out more than 10 miles. For medium-range work, it has 16 120-millimeter batteries, and for the close-in fight, 22 25-millimeter cannons. This anti-aircraft arsenal can unleash a murderous hailstorm of lead. 6 miles southwest and just under the surface, American submarine USS Nautilus scans the horizon. The sub is a scout for U.S. forces. Smoke from the Japanese anti-aircraft fire soon draws the attention of Nautilus. The sub moves closer, looking to make an attack of its own. But 180 degrees and some 800 feet overhead, a Japanese fighter plane spots Nautilus. The Zero swoops down to 200 feet and opens up with machine gun fire. Anything to damage the sub or force it below periscope depth so it cannot fire a torpedo. 90 degrees and 2,000 yards off Nautilus's port bow. The Japanese destroyer Arashi spots the encounter. It charges in and starts dropping depth charges. A depth charge is an explosive device designed to sink a submarine with a powerful underwater explosion. A fuse set will activate at a predetermined depth, detonates the explosive. Now the hunt is on. With a speed of 35 knots and armed with 8 torpedo tubes and 26 depth charges, Arashi is a sub-killer. The explosions miss Nautilus, but the sub takes no chances and dives temporarily. The U.S. submarine soon resurfaces, though, and strikes back. It spots a battleship. She sets up her target, then unleashes a torpedo.